All of your local and state news in one place. Tune into The District on WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station. Welcome to The District, all your local and state news all in one place. Here with John Cole, I'm Taylor Allen, and we got everything you need to know.
Yeah, it was fun that last week we were finally able to have our first full edition, 30 minutes of jam-packed, great news talking about Temple-related issues, Philadelphia, and Pennsylvania as a whole. So again, this is your one-stop listen to all things Philadelphia-based politics and Pennsylvania. So again, you can listen to us on WHIPRadioTU.com. This is The District. We are going to broadcast every week. So we have plenty to get to today for this week in the news in Philadelphia. We want to start off specifically with someone's name we haven't heard in the news in a little bit. Around this time last year, in the past couple years, people in this specific area in Philadelphia, around Temple University in North Philly, and the 2nd Congressional District as a whole, know the last name Fattah. Yes. Shaka Fattah was the congressman for 20-plus years in the 2nd Congressional District.
Which is here for us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm saying if you live in this area, you know the name. And, of course, he was caught in political scandal, and he was on trial last year. But this time it's not him in the news, but his son. Taylor, I want you to get into the news about his son recently.
Well, technically it wasn't really his son, but one of his very close colleagues, David Shulick, is charged with taking school district funds and misusing them, essentially. It's been reported that he has used this money to pay his housekeepers and nannies, and he has drafted false budgets and submitted fake invoices to the school district while skipping on maintenance, failing to hire counselors, and laying off teachers to avoid paying their actual salaries. If you didn't know from last year, Fattah Jr. was also convicted of misusing funds, this time last year?
Yeah, I believe it was. But you mentioned that this for-profit education firm has ties to Fattah Jr.
Oh, yeah, it says ties to him, but Fattah himself is not under fire this time. But It is suspicious that one of your colleagues is coming down, too.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned here in your notes for this that with the help of Fattah, Delaware Valley's former chief operating officer and the son, of course, former U.S. Congressman Shaka Fattah, Shulick allegedly drafted false budgets and submitted fake invoices to the school district while skimping on maintenance, failing to hire counselors, and laying off teachers to avoid paying salaries. Just as if scandal doesn't run amok here in the Philadelphia and Pennsylvania area, here's another black eye on the area.
And a story that just came out 2 days ago. Philadelphia teachers are leaving the district entirely because their salaries are so low. Some of them are leaving the city, and some are even going so far as to leave the state.
If you go into the suburbs of the Philadelphia area, Taylor, the wages for public school teachers are much, much, much higher, where if you want to be a public school teacher in the city of Philadelphia, it's not only is being a teacher an essential, vital job in society, and quite frankly, it's thankless work far too often. Teachers don't get the respect they need. And then you look at the pay scale at those that teach in Philadelphia specifically. It's far too low compared to neighboring counties. So you understand that that's going to be something we're going to follow in the next weeks, months, and year and forward with the Philadelphia teachers leaving.
I mean, the school district in Philadelphia has a multitude of problems, including having enough teachers. I mean, some of these schools only have substitute teachers, and they're not really being taught the full curriculum. And then there's the problem of most public schools being closed anyway because of the influx of charter schools. Not necessarily saying that charter schools are bad, but they don't have a lot of oversight, which can lead to a multitude of problems.
Yeah, and again, this is just the beginning, I think, of that conversation as well. That's a news story you're going to be following for quite some time because charter schools, in a sense, are still in their infancy stages.
Yes,
you kind of want to say. I mean, they've been around for a decade and a half, maybe maybe 2 decades, if you want to say.
Charter schools are just interesting, is because they're kind of a public school because technically they're public funding.
Correct.
But they're private nonprofits.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, if you're like a CEO of a charter school, technically you don't even have to have a college degree. It's not part of the requirement. You can,
They just don't have a lot of particular regulations. But I would blame that on its infancy because they haven't been around that long. So they don't know how to regulate them.
And they've picked up momentum, obviously. We know in the Philadelphia area, heck, here at Temple University, there's a charter school actually right off of, right near 15th or 16th, and like a little past Cecil B. Moore. So I mean, right
Yeah.
where a lot of students live, just in a
Yeah.
regular building, there's a charter school there. So I mean, heck, we definitely yet to see the last of them, and I wonder how they're going to coincide, the charter schools and public schools in Philadelphia, how they're going to work with each other moving forward as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the second story, going more into the state level, Pat Toomey and gun control. It actually seems as if Pat Toomey has more Democratic support because he actually advocates for gun control. He actually has some support during this race so far.
Yeah, so this is something, Taylor, we've actually talked about at length here on WHIP radio, specifically on Rational Radio. Myself and Ryan Frischel actually just got done interviewing John Bayer of the Philadelphia Daily News. He's covered government and politics for them since 1987, and we talked about the race between McGinty and Toomey, which, as of now, is the most expensive Senate race in the country.
Yes, I did see that.
So a ton of money is being poured in, and why it's so fascinating, because the House right now, the Republicans control the House and the Senate's close. And right now, Democrats see it within their grasp that if they are to gain a couple seats, they will take back the Senate. And if they win the presidency, that would be a huge, huge victory for the Democrats. And ultimately, 2016 will be a successful year for them. And Senator Toomey, the incumbent Republican junior senator, he took down Joe Sestak in 2010 in the year of the big Republican wave, and he won by just by a couple points. So it was a really hard-fought battle, and it came down to just a couple points, and Toomey barely squeaked that one out. And in a state like Pennsylvania, where as of now, it's according to most polls, Secretary Clinton's going to win it. And the last time for president, the state of Pennsylvania has voted Republican was 1988 for George H.W. Bush. So it's been quite some time. So in a sense, Senator Toomey has an uphill battle. So for him, he has to, you don't want to say champion a liberal cause,
but he has to appease to some people. He has to take some voters, or at least get some middle voters. And I mean, he won the endorsement of gun safety groups headed by former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and former Democratic Congressman Gabby Gilforts of Arizona. Yeah. So he's trying really hard to get that middle ground. And
he's made it evident in several and many of his commercials that we're going to see on and on and on until November 8th. And McGinty and Toomey are putting a bunch of money into this campaign for this specific race. And the endorsement actually of Bloomberg to me is very fascinating in this one specifically, because he was a former Republican, currently an independent. And if you remember, if you watched the DNC, he was actually at the DNC and he endorsed Secretary Hillary Clinton the one night. And it was a rather effective speech, because he went into a room where he's not liberal by any means. He went in there saying, look, he's like, unlike many of you, I don't vote Democrat every time. I'm not bound to the party lines, but I'll tell you that we are going to vote this. He said, he talked about the importance of electing a sane, competent person, in his words, to the White House. And he saw that as Secretary Hillary Clinton. And then Bloomberg, once again, having this role of being the independent, and he's really, his endorsements, I think, go a long way for him to endorse Senator Toomey because of these to champion gun control as well. I think that shows that McGinty's more liberal, I guess, than Secretary Clinton, and how the voters of Pennsylvania view that right now.
Well, Bloomberg himself didn't he toy with the idea of running for president?
He did toy with the idea, and it was actually it was speculated about for quite some time, because his name is he's been known at the national scale for quite some time. Not only being the mayor of New York City, he's a billionaire. He's worth, I believe, 4 times as much as Donald Trump is. So Michael Bloomberg is he's been known at the the national level for quite some time, and if there's anyone to make a third party run, Bloomberg has the resources to do so. But I want to bring up actually right now an article from the man we just interviewed a little bit ago, John Bayer, from the Philadelphia Inquirer. He wrote an article about Senator Toomey and Katie McGinty's re-election battle right now, and about all the money being poured in, and why it's so fascinating, because in the past 10 days, we've seen 6 different polls release number 6. And it's all over the place, which makes it really fascinating. Quinnipiac released a poll in which Senator Toomey was leading by 8 points over Katie McGinty. Wow. And then Franklin and Marshall released a poll saying Katie McGinty was up 6 points. Monmouth has them locked even right now. The NBC Wall Street Journal poll has Katie McGinty up 4 points. CBS News has them tied. And Susquehanna polling has Senator Toomey up 4 points. So 6 different well-trusted news outlets, trusted polling.
Are all over the place.
All over the place. One
Yeah.
having Toomey up 8 points, which is a blowout, and the other having McGinty up 6 points, which
Still a blowout.
is a blowout. So you'd have to assume it's somewhere in the middle there. Somewhere there's probably some common ground. It's somewhere in the middle. But nonetheless, the causes that Senator Toomey has championed with gun control, among the Republican base, the conservative base of the party is not a fan of his stance on that. And
No, they're not.
I could speak to this from having been to a Donald Trump rally just a couple weeks ago. Myself, Ryan Frischella, and Ryan Goodwin here of WHIP went into the crowd, and we asked about Senator Toomey.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump supporters either didn't have a favorable opinion on him,
Okay.
or they knew about his stance on gun control, and they said, no, we're not voting for Pat Toomey. He's too liberal. He's trying to take our guns away. So you have conservatives in the state. I'm sure the conservatives in the state aren't going to vote for Katie McGinty. That's not the debate. But those who really see the Second Amendment as if that's their biggest concern, are they going to vote for Senator Pat Toomey right away? Some of them seemed a little reluctant to do so, Taylor.
I just think that for Pat Toomey, he is a Republican going for that seat. And so I don't think it'd be beneficial for him to try to get to the Republican voters. He needs to appeal to the more, I wouldn't say liberal, but definitely more Democratic, moderate people. It makes more sense for him to go for those people, for him to get that seat.
And like you mentioned, in the state like Pennsylvania, this isn't a clear red state, and this isn't just a definite blue state. There's a lot of moderates in the state of Pennsylvania. And to appease them, I think this is an issue where if he was going to pick a liberal or progressive cause to champion, this one that may be the one that could possibly put him over the top. But again, that is going to go to the last day. I think it's going to be fascinating to follow who wins that one, because this race between McGinty and Toomey very well may be the most important race and can decide the Senate going into the next year. Who's going to control the Senate? If the Democrats and McGinty win this one, that could be the biggest victory of the Senate for them this election cycle.
I think getting gun control was a smart move because it's an emotional one. And it's something that will definitely get people on board. I mean, he himself wrote on the bill in 2013.
With Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia.
Yeah, when the Sandy Hook Elementary School tragedy happened. And that's a very emotional thing that most people remember. So I think for him to choose a more liberal topic that is more emotional, that will get people to vote and act fairly quickly, I think it was a smart decision.
Yeah, from a political standpoint, I've actually listened to conservative talk radio at length of those like Chris DeGaulle and Ridge Cioli, who are both conservative talk show hosts on 1210 WPHT in Philadelphia. And although they may not agree with Senator Toomey's stance on gun control, they realize the foresight that if you're looking at this from a political standpoint, this may have saved his seat in the U.S. Senate. But that's going to wrap it up for our talk about the United States Senate between Katie McGinty and Senator Pat Toomey. They have 2 debates. They're going to go at it twice. And it's not expected to be highly viewed. There's not going to be a ton of viewers. It's not going to have millions of viewers like the presidential debate.
Or even the VP debate.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to move the needle that much, but I'm curious if one of the candidates has a very strong debate, will that help change the poll numbers a bit? Time will tell there. But heck, we talked about Philadelphia scandal. We talked about the state and the crucial U.S. Senate race. How about here at Temple University? Some huge breaking news yesterday. Temple's got a president.
Temple has a president.
Yeah,
officially.
The word acting is now has been taken off of the word acting president for Richard M. Englert. He is now the president right now.
He's now the president. However, they are still looking for other people during the summer and into the spring semester. However, his name will not be a candidate. So he still will be replaced at some point. At least that's what could be assumed.
But for this year, for the remainder of this year. Yeah, and this is a guy who we actually talked about this a little bit ago on Rational Radio. He's a Philly lifer, this guy. I mean, Englert's been at Temple University for 40 years, and he's served at pretty much every role you want someone to have experience in. He's got it checked off.
I mean, he knows what he's doing. I'm kind of surprised they even want to keep looking. I mean, he does seem like the perfect candidate. He's been here his entire life. He did all of the positions you could possibly get at Temple.
Yeah, and I think this is his second stint as an acting president. So again, he's been in this role before. I guess maybe he didn't, I don't know if necessarily wanted to take on the role, but nonetheless, he's going to have it for the rest of the year. And I think now, since the word acting is taken off of him, and even though he's not the long-term solution, you don't anticipate him to be the president in a couple years. He's already 70 years old.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, but I think he's going to have to deal with some issues moving forward, specifically with stadium talk, with the library being built on campus. There's going to be plenty of things that he's going to have to deal with head-on before he even exits Temple University. And just before I let you jump in on this, how I mentioned how he's a Philly lifer, Mayor Jim Kenney, from his personal Twitter account, earlier today, just 8 hours ago, tweeted about Richard Englert, saying, "Congrats to new Temple University Prez Richard Englert. Great choice, real Philly guy. Go Owls." And again,
cute.
yeah, if Temple, if they want to get a stadium, I don't know, whoever those are in favor of it, Mayor Jim Kenney's probably going to have the okay on it. And for Englert to have a good rapport with Mayor Kenney, I guess that's something that they will see as valuable.
I mean, if you go anywhere on Temple's campus, there are construction everywhere, quite literally everywhere on campus.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious as to what he's going to be personally responsible for. What is he going to have the credit for by the end of this year?
Yeah, and how much exactly is he going to want to deal with, considering, again, he's been here for 40 years. This university is his home, and you wonder, when these issues arise, is he going to want to deal with this head on, or is this something where the next president's going to have some major decisions? Is he going to take a back seat and kind of steer the ship in the meantime, and then let the next person, whoever takes the reins next, he'll let them make the decisions that shape the university from decades moving forward?
Is the stadium still ongoing, as of right now?
I mean, as of now, they're in the middle of, I believe, conducting, I think they were doing a traffic study, if I'm not mistaken, to deal with how much traffic is dealt with on North Broad Street and their surrounding areas. And I think whenever that gets discussed and or released, I guess we will hear more about it. So as of now, it's funny, for those at Temple University, last year, specifically this time last year, the talk of the stadium dominated conversations. Whether you were a sports fan or just a student at Temple University.
The stadium stompers became the biggest thing on campus.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a real clash between two different ideologies of what Temple University's campus would look like moving forward. And for those that were in favor of the stadium, they were, big sports fans, they were adamant about how this could change Temple for the better. And then there were those who said the community says no to the stadium. That was the big rallying cry for those who were the stadium stompers. And Taylor, I don't know about you, but I was actually at the Q&A when they released the idea about it, and they wanted to have an open forum and had questions about what the stadium was going to be like. And it certainly didn't go according to plan.
No, it didn't. I was there, and essentially it was Theobald at the time. He was there.
Theobald and Dr. Patrick Kraft.
It's pretty much them.
Kraft is still here, though.
They pretty much stated what their plans were and allowed students to talk, but at the end of the day said the plans are still ongoing. And
then all the protests that also happened during it, too.
The protest I was there for, and it was interesting because the protests were going on while there was tours going on, student tours for incoming freshmen for the next semester. And it was just such a sight to see it, to the point where there were people screaming into blowhorns, being like, "Do you know what your school does? They take away from community." It got really heated. It was very fast.
It was a hostile environment. I don't think they anticipated it getting to that level. And you wonder, whenever they decide to move forward with the conversation, is there going to be another forum in which are they going to invite members of the community? Are they going to invite students to have another open discussion about the pros and cons of this? Or are they just going to keep moving forward with it? Something that President Englert will deal with. I wonder if he's going to specifically have this as an issue in the next year, or is this something the next president's going to have to really deal with here at Temple?
For Englert, I'm hoping, in his opinion, he's saying maybe next year.
Yeah, he's going to push this
he's
off.
He's going to push this off as much as possible.
Push it off as much as possible. And something that is not getting pushed off just in a couple months, January 1st, a new law will go into effect. A big one. Something that, as a matter of fact, Mayor Kenney, for the most part, when he ran for mayor in the Democratic primary against State Senator Hardy Williams, he ran on universal pre-K. it was a huge topic of conversation, and I think it helped Kenny get over the top. And how are you going to fund that? Many people asked. A big reason was the proposed soda tax on sugary beverages, originally proposed at 3 cents per ounce, which
is very high.
which caught a lot of people off guard. Maybe he was doing that to shoot high so they could find some middle ground there. Maybe he didn't expect it to pass at 3. But they agreed at 1.5 cents per ounce. But that also includes diet beverages as well. So
yeah, it does.
I'd expanded that. And again, it goes into effect January 1st. But this week, Thursday, Taylor, tell what's going on.
There's a public hearing. Pretty much they're inviting any person who owns or works at any supermarket or any place that would sell a sugary drink to come in and pretty much speak their mind about the issue. It's very public. You can say whatever you want. You can speak and just share all of your opinions just to see and just to be around a diverse opinions. However, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter because it still will go in effect January 1st. Mm-hmm. But they do want to hear the community's point of view.
I'm curious to see how much will this affect businesses and how many people are going to show up to this specific hearing. Are we going to just see workers of Pepsi, Coca-Cola, big distributors for beverages? Are we going to see a lot of people that own mom and pop shops, the little corner stores that we see here in North Philadelphia and South Philly, Northeast Philly, West Philly, whatever part of Philadelphia? Are we going to see those people as well? Because it's certainly going to change their business as well.
And I want to know what the American Beverage Association is going to say if they're going to show up. Because this is definitely a point of interest for them. Because they're expecting to lose certain money from this because they're expecting people who are in the city to just buy stuff outside of the city.
And I guess it's all about proximity to the suburbs.
Yeah.
For you, like, for example, I don't live far at all from Bensalem, which is in Bucks County. As a matter of fact, I even work there. And I work at a grocery store, and I know, I actually talked to my boss about this. When the cigarette tax was passed in Philadelphia a couple years back, he talked about the significance of sales, how it went up in cigarettes, how so many people that live in my neighborhood and some of the neighboring neighborhoods, it's a bit repetitive there, but in some of the bordering neighborhoods, how they all decide to go to Bucks County. They'll take a 10-minute drive out of their way to get cigarettes, so they pay a couple $dollars less. And he talked about business booming for them. And you wonder now, with the soda tax, are people going to do the same thing? Are they going to follow suit? Where why drive?
Yeah.
Why not? Why don't I just drive 5-10 minutes out of my way and save a couple bucks?
Well, the soda tax is controversial because Philadelphia is the first big city to actually implement this.
Correct.
Like New York City, they dabbled with the idea, but they never
Michael Bloomberg, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, but they never actually put it into effect. And there is more controversy because the purpose is to fund pre-K. Like, that's like the really big selling point. But only a portion of the city would get this universal pre-K, only 17,000 eligible children. And out of a city that has hundreds of thousands of kids, that is nowhere near universal, technically speaking. It'll also refurbish parks and recreation centers across the city, the money that they're using from the soda tax. That will also pay some employee disability benefits, cover some costs for the DA's office to retry juvenile lifers, support arts and culture programs, and bolster the city's fund balance. All those things are good things, do not get me wrong. Yeah. However, they were not advertised when this whole proposal came about. This is what happened at the city council vote.
Yeah.
That day. So no one actually knew that this was going to happen until it was actually voted on.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, the things that it's going to fund, people aren't upset about. But I think a lot of people were under the interpretation that all this money was going to go for the kids. You know,
kids. And when they said universal, the assumption was it'd be for every child.
Although I didn't think it was that plausible from the get-go. Like, you can't expect to have this passed and for every kid to go to preschool just like that. But I think maybe it's a work in progress. Mayor Kenny is right now, again, he's still in the beginning of his first term as mayor. And we know in the city of Philadelphia, as a Republican, it's extremely tough to win as mayor. The last time it happened was in the 1940s, I believe. So we've seen it a couple times get close. The most recent time it was a close election was 99 with Mayor Street and Sam Katz. So, again, will Kenny have a challenger in the next couple of years? Probably when he runs for re-election. But is it going to go anywhere? No. So Kenny is probably looking this as a long-term project.
I would hope so.
With, in this first term, is universal universal pre-K going to be implemented for all kids? No. But if they get enough momentum behind it and if the people happen to understand that, look, if soda's a little more expensive, but if our kids are going to preschool and all kids are going to preschool, they may look at it as a victory. It's one of the marquee, it's probably the signature of Mayor Kenny's tenure right now as mayor so far, this specific bill getting passed.
I think that is his bill, and that will probably be his legacy.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that, I guess I personally don't like the fact that you said universal kindergarten, because I also did not think it was plausible when I first heard it, and I did think that it would be a plan overall, but I think he should have been more upfront, like, okay, we're gonna try it in certain neighborhoods, this amount of children, because I just think you just should be as honest as possible. Just because when people find out that actually that isn't exactly the case, or it cannot happen as quickly as people might think, people will start getting angry.
And again, this is probably going to define his term as mayor. Of course, we expect things to change in the city of Philadelphia in the next couple of years, and if he has the privilege of being the mayor of Philadelphia for 2 terms, which would be 8 years, I think a lot could get done in that time. But in the meantime, that has been, that's the biggest thing he's gotten passed so far. And the funny thing is, it hasn't even gone into effect yet.
That's true. It hasn't gone into effect.
So we're still waiting.
I mean, we don't even really know, like, how it goes. Like, how does universal kindergarten, like, what's the quality of that? We won't know until probably even years after this is implemented.
Yeah, this is something, only time will tell exactly what the outcome of it will be.
Yeah. But that's all we have today for this episode of The District.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun stuff. And the best part is, look, moving forward, there's going to be more and more things to talk about in the political realm. So we could talk maybe briefly about that, see what other issues are happening in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area, because that's what we talk about. And Election Day is coming up. Last day.
Are you registered?
Yes, I am. Hopefully everyone else did so as well, and I hope you did, Taylor.
Of course I am.
There you go. So stay tuned to The District here on WHIP, Philadelphia's #1 college radio station.